Where? I will now call the meeting of Public Works and Safety Standing Committee meeting to order. We want to welcome everyone to this meeting. Public comment is welcome. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the Standing Committee agenda may do so when the item is up for discussion. You will have 3 minutes to state your comments. Please come forward to the table and you will be recognized. For accurate recording purposes, we all ask present to speak directly in the microphone. Roll call.
Roll call. Bryant.
Here.
Philbrook.
Here.
Markley.
Here.
Maddox.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Kane.
Here. We have the minutes for our March 24th meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those, the same sign. Ayes have it. That takes us to our committee agenda. I will note that we do have a blue sheet attending 2 additional items this evening. Having said that, we now have 6 items. Item number 1 is a request from Commissioner Walters regarding the CNIP dollars. I will now recognize Commissioner Walters.
Thank you. I'm here to propose a modification to a resolution that's currently in place. And the resolution modification that I am requesting is that all CNIP monies be distributed equally among commissioners. Currently, the resolution states that District 7 allocation be reduced. I don't believe that was the intent of the resolution when initially authored, but during discussions, the final resolution resulted in District 7 being having a reduced share. I have some information, and I will be glad to talk about CNIP, and I'm sure the staff members here have the same information, but essentially it's a $2 million set aside directed to commissioners. There were 10 allocations, so roughly $200,000 per commissioner was the plan. The last time those funds were distributed, because of the reduction to District 7, each of the other 9 districts got about $10,000 more, so roughly $210,000, and District 7 received about $100,000 less than the other 9 commissioners. So I wasn't around when that discussion took place and all the logic that went with that, but I think I could say, without having done a lot of research, that revenues from District 7 are probably not the highest and probably not the lowest of any other district. And there are plenty of opportunities to spend CNIP money in District 7, as there are in other districts, as I believe I shared with you in my virtual tour of District 7. So that's the nutshell of the presentation that I have. If there's any questions that I could answer, I'd be glad to, or other speakers could be
Commissioner Markley.
questioned.
I'll just say for historical reference, some of you weren't here when we went through the CNIP process initially, but I can say with certainty that none of the other commissioners brought up reducing this district's CNIP dollars. Actually, Commissioner Walters' predecessor is the one who said, I don't have all of my area in the city, so take some of my money. And of course, all the other commissioners said, yes, we will take some of your money. We sure weren't going to turn it down, but it actually wasn't something that was brought forward by any other member of the commission. It was Commissioner Walters' predecessor who sort of offered up the holy grail of an extra $10,000. So that's how it happened historically and how that district came to be shorted.
Board Member Bryant.
In land size compared to other districts, how large is District 7 that's actually within the UG part?
I don't know. District 7 is one of the larger districts, but I don't know what percentage of it in land area is Kansas City, Kansas. It's roughly, I think 35% of the population of District 7 is in Kansas City, Kansas, if that helps. But there are several ways to look at that, of course. These are monies that are spent, collected and spent, and part of District 7 obviously is in Edwardsville, part of it is in Bonner Springs. Well, there's not a lot of places to spend money in Edwardsville. There's one very good barbecue restaurant. There's a couple gas stations. But most of the people in Edwardsville spend their money in Kansas City, Kansas. Grocery stores, car dealerships, furniture stores, all that stuff exists in Kansas City, Kansas, not in Edwardsville. Similarly with Bonner Springs, there are more retail opportunities there, but most of the expenditures, again, are in Kansas City, Kansas. I did a very scientific survey and looked at my MasterCard charges for the last 6 months, and I found that I spent over 80% of my money that was spent in the county was spent in Kansas City, Kansas. So even though there's some geography that's outside of Kansas City, Kansas, a lot of the people that are not within Kansas City, Kansas, but in District 7, contribute a lot to the overall economics of Kansas City.
Well, does CNIP money get used for projects that are in Edwardsville and Bonner Springs proper?
No, only in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's more why I was asking about the land mass, because I'm very unknowledged about the CNIP program in whole, but, I was understanding it was like parks and sidewalks and things like that.
It is
So I
parks.
was looking at land mass, dollar-wise versus the amount of land mass there's going to be in another area. Are they much larger and therefore almost more fitting that there'd be more expenditures required to keep them up to pace?
Bob Brady.
Yes. To answer your earlier question, it's about 50% in outside of Kansas City, Kansas, and about 50% inside. If you look at the dollars, it splits along that direction. And many of our commission districts none of them are the same size. Every one of them is different. And that's correct. The CNIP money would be spent in KCK portion.
Move approval for the adoption that all commissioners receive the same allocation as CNIP money.
Second.
Okay, before we take a vote, does anyone in the audience wish to make a comment or ask a question? Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you. Maybe I didn't hear it well, or maybe a member of staff can answer. Once we do make the move to vote and distribute the funds equally across each district, then how much total will it be in each district?
Well, currently, if this proceeds, there'll be $200,000 for each commissioner. And then we have the issue of the at-large that is currently empty. So that's not been discussed this evening, but currently, with the rules we have in place right now, if this proceeds to full commission adoption, then I would say each commissioner has $200,000.
So roughly it'd be about a $20,000 reduction per district.
No, I think
It's more like 10.
10. All right. Well, Commissioner Walters, Mr. Walters is our buddy, and I don't think we mind doing that.
Roll call on the motion.
Roll call. Bryant?
Yes.
Philbrook?
Yes.
Markley?
Aye.
Maddox?
Aye.
Walker?
Yes.
Kane?
Aye. Item number 2 is an ordinance establishing a sanitary sewer buy-in connection fee. Misty Brown from our legal department. Well, he doesn't look like Misty Brown, but
Misty's not here. I'm Misty stand-in with Ken. In February 20th of this year, the commissioners approved the development agreement for our Village West Apartments, Phase 2. And as part of that agreement, the UG committed to constructing a 9,000-foot, could you call up the screen, please? Down.
Keep going down. I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
The 9,000 feet of sewer line will run approximately from, this is parallel here, this is 110th. So this green line, I hope that's green, I am colorblind. That's the new line that would be installed. And the ordinance before you tonight basically places a surcharge on anyone who connects to this sewer in the future. The concept is somewhat like having the people that would be using the sewer in the future to pay for part of it. Water pollution control, as a general expense, will still pay over 50% of the cost. So it's still a bargain, I believe, for the people that would be connected in the future. This will open up approximately 800, 900 acres for future development. So that's the concept. There will be an additional charge of approximately $400 per residential connection, which still makes our connection fees quite low. The connection fee would be $960 plus the $400 and some odd dollars. Johnson County, for example, charges something in excess of $2,000 for a sewer connection.
Are there any questions?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, does anyone in the audience wish to make a comment or ask a question? Seeing none, roll call on the question.
Roll call, Bryant.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Markling.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye. Item number 3 is request for MOU with BP regarding the traffic signal system. Bill Heatherman.
Thank you, Mr. Kane, and I have Ms. Lydiana LeBoy, our city traffic engineer, with me. This item really memorializes a revised understanding that BPU and Unified Government staff have been developing over the years with how we handle traffic signal maintenance and capital expenditures. The Board of Public Utilities has for many decades provided the operation and maintenance of our traffic signal system. I think it grew out of historically as an electrical utility. They had specialized expertise and knowledge there, and then we provided the transportation engineering and the transportation side of the house, if you will. The previous agreement was actually written in a letter in 1968 that was kind of to clarify things. I guess we managed to make it 40 years plus without needing to revisit it. But it basically kind of split things down the middle as we'll provide the labor and installation as BPU, and Unified Government side was to buy the equipment. The reality is modern construction and the complication of systems is that didn't really work that well in capital projects. It really just made it very difficult for both organizations to plan and schedule. And as a de facto matter, we had kind of evolved to where BPU really provided the maintenance side of the house, pretty much as if we were hiring someone to help us do that activity. And then on capital construction, we would just undertake to hire and build and have all the work done. So this MOU primarily memorializes that understanding, plus it formalizes a governance committee that just clarifies the kind of coordination that we have long done and wish to make sure that everyone realizes that we need to continue doing in the future. And with that, I would stand for any questions that you may have.
Commissioner Walker.
Has the Board of Public Utilities seen this MOU and agreed to it?
I'm not sure if the board itself has formally seen it yet. I know the senior staff of both organizations have been working on this some time, and I think we were both carrying it through concurrently.
I guess I can answer that. It hasn't come before the board itself, but I did have a discussion today with Bill Johnson regarding it, and what I got from our conversation was it's my understanding this MOU is meant to clarify responsibilities as we address the needs of our community. I believe the desire is to create a cost-sharing agreement that is fair to both parties and can serve as a guide for future generations. So I would imagine it'll probably come before the board, but I mean, I can't speak for the entire board, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to come to us more as a informational than a vote for. Commissioner Walker.
how does this apportion cost? I mean, is this just memorializing the existing relationship, or are there new wrinkles to this that are going to come back as additional cost on the BPU that they've not previously incurred?
We don't really believe it's going to create any new costs for BPU. What it does do is releases them from the labor obligations related to constructing new traffic signals. We, the unified government, simply take that on as part of our bids. They continue to provide the spare parts and the replacement parts, but that's, in reality, they have provided that through their inventory control. Neither organization has ever kept a detailed grocery list of who did what when. Both of us have kind of worked from year to year based on kind of the operational understandings we have. And in fact, this MOU was initiated in part by Mr. Johnson, who really wanted to bring some formality to what had evolved over the years. So it was really at BPU's initiation, and we agreed wholeheartedly that we ought to put this down in paper.
So in the future, will we be presented with an annual report or some kind of periodic report, whether annual or biannual, of who did what, when, and where, so we can determine, this issue comes up periodically as to the, quote, free services that were provided by the Board of Public Utilities. And that has always been a concern of mine dating back when I worked here. And it's very difficult to get a handle on the extent of those free services, if they in fact be free, that without any record keeping as to the amount of time and cost. I guess what I'm saying is that even though I moved to approve this, I hope that there is some kind of an accounting for each unit, so that in the future we can look back and say, well, in the next year or whatever year we're looking at, we have a real handle on the extent to which services are provided either by the UG or the Board of Public Utilities.
And
accounting, if you would.
I think, Mr. Walker, the idea of having a better annual record of what we've done and more transparent kind of report amongst each other and better communications is one of the goals of this MOU. And we have a quarterly meeting now between senior staff where we try to keep track of the initiatives and the requests that have been made from us by either board. So this provision certainly provides for annual reporting. We've not discussed any particular level of detail or format, but I think it's the intent of both organizations to be able to have that look back better in the future.
Well, my hope is that you'll be able to tell me in 3 years the cost of that we contributed to the lights and the cost that was contributed by the Board of Public Utilities.
Okay.
I mean, quantified in some way. Hours don't mean anything if you don't have a number. How much out of the bottom line does it take for the Board of Public Utilities to do this?
To clarify, this is for traffic lights, it's not for
I
streets.
understand.
Okay.
Not street lights. We have an issue on street lights too, do
Yes.
we not? How we're going to adapt them to the future, LED versus,
Yes.
so I understand we have other issues, but this could be a good prototype for how we deal with all aspects of that relationship.
Yes.
No, go ahead.
In fact, that's actually the intent, is to bring a companion to this memorandum here forward when we finish tying up a few loose ends. And it would largely follow the same principle of shared responsibilities, capital versus maintenance.
Board Member Bryant.
I think we had a discussion about this when we had the joint meeting a while back, but, I kind of look at it as whether the bill is coming from the UG or the bill is coming from the BPU, it's a cost to our citizens to live in our city. I try not to separate them any more than I have to, because, it's just one or the other. And it's my hope and kind of my understanding from Mr. Johnson that this is, in the long run, supposed to help facilitate to lower the overall cost, because there's less confusion and more direction So hopefully, there won't be duplicity and along the way. So at the end of the day, the total dollars spent to continue the programs that are needed for streetlights or for traffic signals will hopefully have a lower cost, total cost to our residents.
Yes, sir. I think whether it's lower cost or wider reach, either way will be more efficient if each team does what it does best and doesn't need to get in the way of the other one.
Did you already move to approve?
I believe there was a motion in a second.
Was there a second?
There hasn't been a motion or a second.
Well, then I would move to approve.
Oh, second.
Roll call on the motion.
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Maddox,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Kane.
Aye. Item number 4 is an update on the MARC Transportation and Federal Tiger Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just a second update, actually it's probably more than second by this time, on our process for applying for Mid-America Regional Council administered funds for federal aid for transportation as well as the Tiger Grant program. We were here in March, just right before the applications went in. With regards to Tiger, in March we discussed 3 possible ideas with you: Village West and State Interchange, KU Med Center area transportation planning, and the Turner Diagonal area. Even at that meeting, we kind of indicated the bar that we would have to overcome to make a credible Tiger application and the amount of resources it takes to put into a Tiger grant application. For those that you don't know, Tiger is this major national competitive application process for transportation funds, in the many millions of dollar range. Intends to be very, very competitive, requires very specific type of criteria to be advanced. We ended up determining that really none of our projects were quite at the ready of planning or would meet the cost-benefit rigors the way the Tiger scores them. And so that really for the limited staff resources we have, better spent doing our own planning in the future than going after this Tiger grant. At the same time, however, KDOT and Mid-America Regional Council each came forward with regional type applications, which we do think actually hit some of the same concerns and goals. And we gladly signed on, gave our letter of support, and quite frankly, it was probably good that we were out of the competition, because probably no more than one Tiger to any major metropolitan regional area is going to be very likely. I-35 moving forward is the name KDOT gave to their major study of I-35. The specific application they put forward is the next programmed phase. The work would include, the biggest component would be the 75th Street and I-35 in Johnson County, although that bottleneck does certainly impact folks that are trying to get further north on I-35, and many of our KU faculty and staff are quite dependent on I-35 as a means of commuting. It also would include bus on shoulder extension into Wyandotte County operated by Johnson County Transit, and some ramp metering and other intelligent transportation type controls that KDOT believes is going to be necessary in order to keep good quality free flow and accident management down during peak hours. So overall, it's the next step forward. Some of the more dramatic construction for Wyandotte County would be in the step beyond this one. KDOT didn't feel they were ready to apply for funds for that but by getting this work out of the way, it just hastens the day that we can continue to see even more major capital investment in I-35. And the second one is a planning grant headed by Mid-America Regional Council that's really going to focus on job access and connections via transit. The connections there for many of our citizens, for KU Med Center, are quite obvious, and Mid-America Regional Council understands the synergies in Wyandotte County. So both of these seem to be good applications, probably score better than anything we would have been able to come up with on our own. And seems like just a good way forward. So that's where we stand with Tiger, and I'll take any questions there before I move on to the next. For Mid-America Regional Council, when we were here in March, we showed you the projects that we were looking at applying for. We did apply for all those projects. Just for the program as a whole, there were 178 applications submitted between Kansas and Missouri to the Mid-America Regional Council. That's probably a record for them. The way this particular round was structured, there was a lot more money and more programs in play. STP stands for Surface Transportation Program. That's the largest element. And for Kansas alone, there are $76 million in applications chasing about $24 million in funds. So this is going to be very competitive. CMAQ is Congestion Mitigation Air Quality. TAP is Transportation Alternatives, which is kind of the bikes, trails, safe routes to school, some transit type programmings. Those are also very competitive. And the Mid-America Regional Council has a very long and complex process, really, that they go through to handle all these applications and vet them. We will not have final approved project awards until October. This is just a listing of the projects that we did apply for. We have 2 transit projects, Route 107, which is the 7th Street Transit Route, southern extension to the new Mission transit operation to make the connections to Johnson County Transit, as well as bus stop and station upgrades all along 107. We've talked about Leavenworth Road, 63rd to 38th, Minnesota Avenue 9th to 5th, which we did apply for, although obviously the other conversations since then may mean that portions of that project accelerate through, other means. But it's in the works and it's being evaluated. Central and 18th Street intersection, the 10th to 12th Street Bikeway, Metropolitan to Quindaro, and then Safe Routes to School, which we ended up packaging kind of 2 sets of 3 schools each, and then also the Walking School Bus, which is a non-construction educational-oriented effort that ties what we call the soft side of Walking School Bus and Safe Routes to School together. And I mentioned also that the City of Edwardsville did also submit an application, Edwardsville Drive, what they're calling Phase 2. So from Wyandotte County as a whole, there are 10 applications in. This just gives you a little feel for the location of those projects, and this is the same slide as last time, except we added a star for Edwardsville, and Route 107 is served here off of 7th Street. Route 107, this is just a little graphic that gives you a better feel. The current Route 107 is the light blue cyan line, and right now it ends right around Rainbow and Adams Street, right close to my house, and this will come a little further into Mission, which I've taken Route 107. It's perfect. It drops me off right here at the front door, so we have good transit service. Okay. A little on funding. This is a very competitive program, and there's a lot of factors that go in. The size of a community and kind of its share of the metropolitan population is taken into account. There's kind of an equity discussion that gets held so that no particular jurisdiction gets left too far in the cold, or, there's kind of a limit to how well you're going to do no matter what list of projects you send up. But if we won the lottery, if we got the federal funds to the maximum for everything we submitted, we would get $14.2 million. That is not going to happen. Typically, most applications have kind of a 20% cut taken right off the top that says we need to spread this money around a little bit more. So probably $11.4 million would still be a really good situation for us. And if we got that much, it would take about another $11 million to do all the match, do the design, do the right-of-way, which is 100% on us. So realistically, when we go after these federal funds, we mentally think of it as about a 50-50 when you're finally all said and done. What I would say is if we broke even, if I just took our population against the amounts of money available and said, we ought to be able to compete to that level, we'd probably be at about $7.8 million and a $7.8 million match. And that's an analysis that's not really specific to exactly which projects scored the highest or lowest. That's just a sense of the range that we might be in. This gives you a sense of just the geographic distribution of projects throughout the metropolitan area. And we submitted the most, so that ought to count for something. The next steps, I am curious, did most of the commissioners get the email from me that had the link to the applications?
I sent it out to my complete mailing list.
Okay.
I just checked, there are 14 comments under Phase D, Safe Route for Schools.
Yes, I was accused, it was hinted at a recent meeting that perhaps Unified Government was orchestrating a comment response, and I demurred, but certainly, we're not going to get a project based on having the most comments, but I think this is the first time that Mid-America Regional Council has made the applications this public, has created that comment, and I certainly do think it helps when the various committees go to look at these applications when they see how important it is to that local community. So any encouragement you can to have folks comment is probably very helpful to us. Mid-America Regional Council has a number of processes they're going. However, the most important one is on June 3rd, they're having a major workshop at the Kauffman Center where the members of all the different committees are coming together to look at these projects. The public is able to attend. Certainly, you all, Commissioner, if you wish to see that process, let me know and we can make arrangements. Then the programming plays out through some other processes, and by October we should know. And with that, I take any questions.
Any questions? This item is for information only and does not require any action.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Item number 5 is a request to approve the 2014 capital projects for the Community America Ballpark. Bob Roddy?
Yes, when the Unified Government purchased the baseball stadium, there was approximately $2.5 million set aside for future capital construction. And the commission instructed staff to come back and review with them and get approval for any expenditures as they proceed. It's because of the timing, the future expenditures were not taken through a CMIP process. However, considering where we are, the stadium's already going to be, their opening game is this week, we need 2014 dollars to basically do some improvements before the season ends and before the ultimate CMIP budget is adopted for future years at the baseball stadium. So as a result, we put together a budget that I believe is in the, Reggie's here, that you'll see as a budget change. And I believe the total is approximately $90,000 for 2014. Most of the expenditures are rather common for what you would think goes into, there's money for, we have some roof failures, there's some holes in some of the roof sections, some of the fencing needs to be repaired. We're repairing some of the stairwells going up to the stadium second floor, and we have money set aside for some professional engineering. There's some concrete subsidence out in the outer buildings, and we want to see what's going on. So we believe that these dollars will allow us to proceed with some of the work as soon as possible and make sure nothing deteriorates any further.
Commissioner Markley.
When we went through with this deal, we anticipated certain maintenance costs as part of the deal. So is this within the amount that we expected to be spending?
Yes, yes. These both, when they submitted their list and the list we reviewed with them, all these items were included.
Another question.
Any more questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
Roll call on the motion.
Roll call, Bryant.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye. Item number 6 is a request from Commissioner Maddox, and I'll turn it over to him.
Thanks, Commissioner Kane. In light of the CNIP project, that came along. My CNIP project, to say the least, was a field located at 9th and Parallel. Since making that decision, thankful that the staff went with me to the school district to make sure that we could reacquire the field that was actually in the school district's grasp. Moving forward into late last year, I decided to put the majority of my CNIP funds into that field, which would require residing, fences, bleachers, scoreboard, all of those things that are needed to create a good field in our community. This field was important because as I got in office, probably the second complaint to not having a grocery store were actually lacks of fields for young people to practice during the summer. In the 4th District, there's Kensington, there's a few fields, and often when soccer season comes around along with the football season, there are spits, bats, fights, you name it, between parents because there are not adequate practice times for teams. So moving forward with that, in Wyandotte County, I don't think there's an actual football field / soccer field that would service the young people who play football. So upon doing my research, come to find out most of the teams that play football in Wyandotte County, which are thousands of students, would have to travel outside of the Wyandotte County limits to play football, whether it be in Johnson County, whether it be in Missouri. So being able to put this field forward and have a place for those young people to play in their own backyard and where we can nurture talent, where we can nurture character, this field was essential. And so again, I wanted to thank the staff for assisting me in getting this project done. The field will be named after Adrian Roberson, which to my knowledge has coached and created teams and leagues probably dating back more than 30 years. He currently has a league, Kansas City United, that reaches over 1,000 students yearly during the football season. And so this field will be named after him for being a dedicated servant to the community, being dedicated to the young men and creating character and nurturing health in young people. And so I think he well deserves it. And so therefore coming to us tonight is to name this field after Adrian Roberson, again, who has been a person who has devoted more of his time than possible. It probably predates my age. Ever since I can remember when I first started playing football, he was a coach, and now he's created a league again that services thousands of people. So this was important. I hope that we will support this field in the future as a city because, again, it's the only one I know that's dedicated to football. And we have thousands of young men in our city who play football yearly. So no longer do they have to travel outside the city limits unless they'd like to because they can play football in their own backyard. So I want to thank you guys.
Is there a second to your motion?
Yes.
Seeing a second, roll call on the motion.
Roll call, Bryan.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye. That concludes our committee agenda and takes us to our public agenda. Item number 1, Commissioner Murguia has requested to appear on behalf of ANDA.
Not Commissioner Murguia.
I'm sorry,
Executive Director Murguia.
Director Murguia.
Thank you very much,
There's an
Commissioners.
important distinction.
Yeah, thank you very much, Commissioners. Commissioner Markley is right. Tonight, I am not here as Commissioner for the 3rd District, but I am here as the Executive Director for the Argentine Neighborhood Development Association, which is a 501c3 not-for-profit. And what we do is community development and urban revitalization, predominantly in the Argentine neighborhood, right here in Kansas City, Kansas. I have brought with me the press release that I sent out tonight in regard to the donation that we'd like to make to the unified government. And it really talks to it better than I could, so I'm just going to go ahead and read a portion of it. It says, the Argentine Neighborhood Development Association is proud to announce their donation of over $675,000 in cash contributions, property, and park and community recreational improvements to the unified government of Wyandotte County. These contributions include the donation of the property valued at $500,000 where the new proposed public safety facility will be built, a $10,000 cash contribution to the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department for new interior equipment for their offices, which will, or hopefully will be located at the new public safety campus. Improvements to Vega Field, including 3 new park benches and 3 concrete pads for existing benches. New interior lighting for a restroom facility, improved tennis courts at Emerson Park, which include resurfacing of the courts, new fencing, nets, and lighting. These substantial contributions and improvements were made possible by leveraging the multi-million-dollar redevelopment project that ONDA is engaged in on the 17-acre brownfield site located in Argentine. You all might be familiar with it as the new Walmart Market. ONDA is very proud of the infrastructure improvements, the community health programs, and the commercial and residential developments that Argentine has experienced in the last several years through ONDA's hard work. These have included raising $1.6 million in charitable funds to build and open a new Save-A-Lot grocery store, which you also are all very familiar with, located at 2102 Metropolitan Avenue. The new Walmart that is being built now and will open later this summer near the new proposed public safety facility, and the construction that's taking place right now of 24-unit Simmons Villa senior housing. So my intent tonight is to just create awareness about the impact that the Argentine Neighborhood Development Association is having not only on my district, not only on the 3rd district, but on Wyandotte County as a whole. I'm very proud of the work that the neighborhood has been involved in and done, and very proud of our ONDA Board of Directors. So I'm not sure, Commissioner Kane, does this require action for you to accept those donations, or is this just sort of an FYI?
It takes an action.
I move we accept.
Second.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, roll call on the question.
Roll call. Bryan?
Aye.
Philbrook?
Aye.
Markley?
Aye.
Maddox?
Aye.
Walker?
Not voting.
Kane?
Aye.
I do have one comment, Chairman Kane, if you would give me just a couple of more minutes. I do just have one concern about this donation, and you'll have to excuse me, I'm a little bit frustrated. I think you're all aware of that about 4 years ago, we adopted some new ethics rules. Our former mayor and our commissioners adopted those rules. As a result of those rules, it has been very difficult financially on ONDA to be able to make this $675,000 donation. For example, we had to retain outside legal counsel in order to be able to make sure ONDA was abiding by the rules because of my dual role as commissioner and the executive director of ONDA, which cost us approximately $17,000. According to our new ethics rules, we are not able to use the development fund that was established from ONDA recruiting the new Walmart to pay those fees. I think it is beyond ethics when you are charging a not-for-profit in the community, regardless of who's running it, to give money to the unified government. So that's my 2 cents. All that said, it is also my opportunity to voice my real concerns with our current new ethics and that have been going on for 4 years. And I would tell you my bigger concern is, as I manage on a day-to-day basis the dual hats I wear as commissioner and the executive director of ONDA, I will tell you that it is becoming more and more obvious that the ethics rules are being selectively enforced, and that these rules are for some people and not for others. And I'm not going to get into those details today, but I am going to ask this committee to look into that. And all of you are welcome to have access of this maybe couple-inch file of all of those situations, probably 3/4 of which don't involve myself or Argentine Neighborhood Development Association. I would just like to see Wyandotte County continue to move forward where there is not patronage politics or a good old boy system, and where minorities and women are treated equally to everyone else. And unfortunately, there's a file thick here where that's not currently happening with our current ethics ordinance. So I hope you'll choose to investigate. It's sort of a bittersweet night for me. I'm glad to be able to make the contribution to the unified government, but I would hope that this committee would investigate those. I'm not asking anyone to pick sides or take my word for it. I'm asking for those cases to be investigated. So thank you very much. If you have any questions.
I was just, you should qualify why you,
Yeah, I've got it.
just for the
I think the record should reflect that I chose non-voting because I'm still currently a member of the ONDA board, and I am extraordinarily confused as to when I can and can't vote on something. I guess accepting a gift from ONDA or a donation, it's difficult for me to understand how that would be unethical for a board member to agree to that, but I chose to err on the side of caution, which to me highlights the problem with ethics. If any of you watched 60 Minutes the other night, there was a story about our Congress and how they write ethics. Well, it's, for example, they can't spend their campaign funds for personal benefit. They can create what's called leadership PACs. And these leadership PACs don't fall under the same rule. So contributors give to the leadership PAC, and then they can use these leadership PAC. For example, one congressman toured 18 or 25 of the world's premier golf courses and played golf with money from that leadership PAC. I think there is a serious need to change some aspects of the ethics code. I am not among those that is in favor of tossing it all out the window, but I am in favor of changing what's wrong with it, and that's what we're supposed to do. And if something isn't working fairly and is discriminatory, I want it changed. And I'm willing to take a look at it, although I think probably the committee is administration and governance that is more by definition the appropriate committee to look at it. But anyway, that's why I chose not to vote on this, because being a lawyer and I read these things, I'm confused as to when I can vote for anything with the word ONDA in it.
Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you. My question was simply, I heard you make the statement that you didn't feel that the ethics department was operating in a fair manner. And then I also understood that you said you had a file of documents there. So I just wanted to ask a dual question just to say, why don't you think that they're operating fairly? And then also, what are those documents that you may have in that file?
Well,
We may not ever get to see them.
yeah, well, you're welcome to review this all
Okay.
that you want to. Anybody here or anybody in the public that would like to review the discrepancies. There just seems to be some rules within our ethics code that are enforced for some groups and not for others. And what I've discovered is that there's a pattern among women and minorities being held to a different standard than others. And it's an ongoing situation, and without getting into details, the file is available. I brought it to staff's attention, in particular administration. It seems to fall on deaf ears, so I thought this is a great opportunity to air any misconceptions about ONDA. You know, we don't receive any money, any unified government money. We're now giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to the unified government, and now, in addition to that, it's costing us attorney's fees to be able to do those kinds of things. It just seems like, in the big picture, none of that is really good for Wyandotte County.
Thank you. And then my last thing I wanted to say is that I haven't heard anything since, but I remember, I think dating back to April 10th, when we had a special session, a commissioner or two had requested to make a motion about the ethics department, and it would be placed on a later agenda. Or was that decided, or was that was that never brought back to the group or?
So I was the one that asked to make a motion in regard to ethics, and I was not put on the agenda to make that motion in a public meeting. Yes, that was me, and it's not been allowed to be on the agenda to make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Philbrook.
I believe, though, at an open commission meeting, we did request for some feedback from that committee in particular about what kind of changes that they felt they could tweak to come into compliance with some of the requests we were making. We did not state when that would be, so I think maybe we can ask for something like that, give them a time period, and maybe report to us. And I don't know what a good time period would be for that. Hal, you have any ideas?
I was under the impression that after the meeting in which the administrator, ethics administrator, and I think she's the chairman of the Ethics Commission at the current time, spoke that they were to come back to us with, I can recall identifying certain issues that were troubling to me.
Yes.
And there were other comments, and they were to take those comments and come back with recommendations, and then we were to either
Review
act
it.
on them or create our own or take some form of action.
So is
I
this
don't-
the
and I-
proper format to
I
request
think
something
that we
about
need a
that?
request from legal to talk to the Ethics Commission and then see when they're going to get back with us on the questions we've already asked.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm sure they have legal help, do they not? Do you have an attorney, Ms. Bodine, assigned to them?
Yes.
Who would that be? Well, then, Mr. Moore sitting here, he has heard, he can have something to us by the next meeting.
I will follow up with the Ethics Commission to find out the status.
Would you let us know
I will-
when they plan to get to this?
And I've got one more question. I just want to be clear, Commissioner McGee, what are you asking us to do with that, with the Fowler papers? And then according to what you spoke of, Hal, as an attorney / commissioner, or is it possible for us to do it or is it not? So just
Do
to be
what?
clear on it.
So to answer your question, I'm not sure it was clear, apparently, because there seems to be about soliciting potential changes from the Ethics Commission. So I'd make two comments. First of all, in regard to your comment, Commissioner Walker, about throwing ethics out the window, I don't think any commissioner wanted to see ethics thrown out the window. I think if anything, the commission is concerned that the standard of ethics has slipped and we're trying to get it back on track and doing the right thing. I personally thought the suggestion of taking it to the state was a good suggestion because I wanted to save Wyandotte County the embarrassment of selectively enforcing the current rules. However, that didn't work. So at this point, what I'd like to see is a review, Commissioner Maddox, to your question. I'd like to see a review of the past 4 years of the ethics rulings. And if there is no selective enforcement going on and all the rules are being carried out and it's a level playing field and everybody's being treated exactly in the same manner, then we have no issue. However, if that's not happening, I think we have a bigger issue that we won't here locally be able to solve because I'm sure Commissioner Walker can talk to himself that if there's discrimination going on, I am sure in all likelihood there will be a lawsuit.
Mr. King?
To a point of order, really. Go ahead.
I just said that about throwing them out the window because after our meeting, there was a great deal of dialogue that I came across in social media that had construed either the option of changing the existing ordinance or falling under the state ordinance as eliminating ethics completely. And so I'm just being, it was not my intent is to say I'm not in favor of eliminating ethical requirements on commissioners. And that was more an answer to the general misinformation that certain individuals either heard at the meeting or saw on the television or were responding to other social media, which I realize is not the official record, but this is where we try to make what we're trying to do a formal thing, so.
Okay, we've had plenty of discussion. That concludes our meeting. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Beth.
If you're leaving the room, if you could keep it to a low level, we're going to go ahead and start our next committee agenda. We're a little bit behind. I will now call the meeting of the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee to order. We want to welcome everyone to this meeting. Public comment is welcome. Please use your microphones. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Philbrook,
Here?
Kane,
Here.
Maddox,
Here.
Walker,
Here.
Markley.
Here. We have minutes from our March 24th meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The minutes have been approved. Our one and only item on our commission agenda is an update on Healthy Communities Wyandotte. It says here I'll recognize Joe Connor, but Joe's not here.
Changed.
We have Joe Connor, as many of you know, has moved into the administrator's office, so his slack is being picked up.
I'm Terry Breckeisen, the Deputy Director of the Wyandotte County Health Department. And the purpose of the presentation tonight is to give you an outcomes update of the Healthy Communities Wyandotte program. And the Healthy Communities Wyandotte program serves two of the commissioner's goals that you have. One is concerning social services, and the other one is concerning the healthy communities and recreational facilities in Wyandotte County. Wesley McCain is here, and he will be making the program presentation concerning Healthy Communities Wyandotte. He is the program coordinator for that at the Health Department.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the opportunity to come and update you about our program. I'm going to pull up or Sean is going to pull up, I guess I can control it, perfect. I made a PowerPoint. I promise it's not long, and it has a lot of pictures in it, so, which...
He knows how to keep us happy.
Well, yes, it makes for a good presentation. So, I've been serving as the coordinator for Healthy Communities Wyandotte for about